Well, hello, New Orleans. It is a bright and chippy Monday. I think it's something. It's chippy for sure. I'm Jim Derry, along with my friend Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Zoe Collins Rath is in the background. We'll probably bring her in at some point. We have lots to talk about today, Spencer. There was sort of a football game that happened yesterday. Before we get to the Saints, we want to remind you the first bet is on us, Caesar Sportsbook. If you have not signed up yet, and we don't know why you would not have, but if you haven't, use the code NOLA-FULL. You will get your first bet up to $1,250 back as a free bet if you don't win. Also, don't forget about our Cash In with Carville show every Thursday. You can hear what James Carville has to say about the Saints. It's probably a lot more positive than what we're going to say. And then don't forget about our newsletter. In your inbox every morning, NOLA.com/Bayou Bets, where we have all kinds of fun stuff going on there. All right, let's get to it. We're going to have some comments. Oh, there's Uncle Big Nick starting already. Who that? How about that?
Hey, you still got to support them. I mean, it's thick and thin people. Don't be coming back when they start winning again.
Oh, man. I don't even know where to start, Spencer. I'm going to let you start with it. Not that anyone needs to see the score, but we'll put it up there anyway. Steelers 20, Saints 10. Anyone who listened to my Datitude monologue this morning knows how I feel. And if you haven't, I'll regurgitate some of it. But, I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole darn thing. You got to go and listen to it. It was, let's just put it this way. It was ugly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just, there's no other way to put it. It's just, this is an ugly season. And it just got uglier with this game. This is one of those games where the Steelers having an ugly year. So figured, you could at least beat the Steelers, right? But didn't happen. Andy Dalton just, I don't even know what to say. It was a disaster.
Here's what gets me. And here are some of the things that I thought were the important points from this morning's show that I'm going to bring up. The Saints are facing the fifth worst rushing defense in the NFL. I don't care that TJ Watt's back. He's a pass rusher. It doesn't change the fact that they're a terrible defense against the run. The Saints run the ball 15 times. 15 times. And 3 of those were 1-yard runs by Andy Dalton. Well, one was a 2-yard run. One was a 1-yard run. One was a run on 4th down, 4th and 1. You go behind your second string center with a patchwork offensive line instead of using Taysom. Sheer brilliance, by the way. And so now the Saints, I mean, you don't run the ball against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. And Dennis Allen's talking about, well, we were ineffective against the run. You were ineffective against the run because you didn't try to run. So Sean Payton's little clipboard holder over there needs to, I mean, they need to figure something out in a hurry because this season is gone. I mean, it's done. But, I mean, do we have to sit here and watch the same old crap every week? That's my question.
Yeah, you definitely want to see improvement because it doesn't really do you much good to tank because you don't even have a first-round draft pick.
Exactly.
So you might as well try to keep building and working at it, which I believe they will. This is a good – I mean, we'll get to it later, I'm sure. But against the Rams, they're down bad. I went through it today, Jim. It was crazy, like just going through all the scores, trying to play catch-up since I was out a few days, just kind of evaluating all the teams. And there's half the league that is what I call down bad, which is like basically your season's either over or hanging on by a thread. 16 teams. I don't feel like it's normally this soon where you got that many teams down bad, where they're just like, it's pretty much over, and the Saints are definitely one of those.
Well, I mean, and I'm not talking about the Saints because the Saints aren't going to the playoffs, but I think you probably were a little harsh because you got 14 teams going to the playoffs, you have to remember. So, I mean, a couple of those borderline teams are probably a little less borderline than you think.
Green Bay yesterday, they saved their season.
They did, and they looked a lot like the Green Bay of old, coming back from a 14-point deficit. But the problem with this team is you cannot feel positive in any way, shape, or form right now. And it's not just that they lost to Pittsburgh. You can say, okay, you lose to a team. Look, a Mike Tomlin team, especially after a bye week, they have now won, I believe, 7 games in a row after their bye week. And this isn't the same Pittsburgh teams that we're used to. But you knew they were going to come out strong. But to come out and just lay an egg and not show up, because I don't know. I can go back and look and go game by game and try to figure it out. But how many games have the Saints just not shown up for this year? It's getting old. If you show up and you lose, fine. You lose. Okay. Then you can talk about excuses and, the offensive line has injuries, and the defensive backfield has injuries, and wide receiver has you could talk about any excuses you want, and we'll listen to them. But I'm not up for excuses if you just don't show up and you play like heartless bums.
Yeah, that's the difference between this year's team and last year's team, is that both the teams were decimated. No Michael Thomas, no this guy, that guy, a lot of big players out. But last year's team just had heart, and they ended up having a winning season. Yeah, they missed the playoffs, but you could at least hang your hat on the fact that they fought hard and had hope for the next year. But this year's team just doesn't seem to have that. They just seem to almost be packing it in, and it's a shame because they've got a lot of veterans. It's one of those things when you have a lot of veterans, it's like it can get ugly quick, because at least if you got a lot of young guys, they fight harder. I mean, the teams like the Falcons and stuff. I know the Falcons have stunk lately, but they've had a better year than the Saints, though, because they fought harder.
Much
They
better.
showed more heart, as you like to say, Jim. And the Saints are just one of these teams. Like, you know what the Saints remind me of? The Saints are like the Raiders. I know the Saints beat up on the Raiders, but they're just a team that went into the season with expectations and now just look defeated.
It's funny you say that, because I know you've been getting yourself back to work slowly after a long weekend. So you didn't hear Datitude this morning, but that's one of the things I talked about it towards the end of my monologue was there are three teams that have basically everything in common. The three teams that were expected to come in this season and be good and have absolutely stunk up the joint: Denver, the Raiders, and the Saints. And they all have something in common. They have first-year coaches with their teams. Two of them are retreads who were coordinators, and another one was just a bad hire in Denver. So, I mean, and the question is, are all three going to get fired? Are all three going to be one and dones? I mean, it's certainly possible. But you can't. It's one thing for your team to go out and stuff happens and the dominoes don't follow your way, and you have seasons like that, and you just lose close games. But this team was losing close games before. Now they're just stinking. I mean, now they're just not showing up. And that's what I thought it was interesting what Derek Carr said yesterday. I don't know if you saw his press conference after the Raiders lost to the Colts yesterday, Jeff Saturday's debut. But, he was tearing up. Derek Carr was tearing up because he says, what hurts him so bad, he basically called out. He didn't name names, but he came out and said, most of us are fighting our butts off every week and, taking stuff we don't want to put in our bodies just to be able to go to sleep. And there are other guys out here are taking this for granted and basically collecting a paycheck. And no one's saying it on the Saints team, but I think that's where we are right now. I mean, we don't have to name names, but I think we all know who they are by just watching. And, I mean, so I think that's where these Saints are. By the way, before we move on, I failed to mention Zach is on a plane right now coming back from Pittsburgh. So that's why he is not on the show today. And I can tell that people don't want to – there's a lot of our regulars who don't want to hear any more negativity, because even our regulars aren't saying hello. It's only UBN. I mean, where's Jerry? Where's the rest of our people? Uncle Big Nick's saying 5 weeks ago there's no leader on this team. I mean, that's kind of the point.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the lack of leadership. And it's like, and in this NFL, it's like all the teams, talent-wise, top to bottom, are fairly equal. There's a lot of parity in this league. So I feel like what separates the men from the boys is who has the strongest leadership, strongest camaraderie. And you look, I mean, the Bills with Josh Allen. Yeah, they lost yesterday, but they fought all the way to the end with the elbow and stuff, just tooth and nails, just kept fighting. Minnesota now with Kevin O'Connell, just a completely different team. They actually have leadership there now. It's one of those things you can't really put a statistic on it, but the results speak. I mean, you can argue. I had this debate with my dad yesterday about the records. He was saying the Vikings are such a lucky team, but it's like they know how to win.
I am so sick of that.
They know how to win.
Spencer, the Sharps keep talking. We're going to talk about Minnesota's game this week coming up, because it's a perfect point. I am so sick of Sharps holding grudges. And I can't even pay attention to some of them anymore when they talk about certain teams. They hate Tennessee. They hate Minnesota. They still love Jacksonville for some unknown godly reason. They're like
I have to admit, Jacksonville stinks.
They're like the millennials with Buffalo. Buffalo's still the greatest team since sliced bread. they're still now they're jumping on the Justin Fields, sorry Zoe bandwagon, and Chicago's great, and they're 3-7. I mean, it's just look. I've never seen such a weird, wacky season in which people just have these biases, and when it comes to betting, you can't have that. You know, and obviously we're talking about the Saints a lot here, but I mean, teams are. Remember the old adage, you are what your record says you are.
That's
who
the
you are
exact
right
debate.
now.
That's the debate we were having yesterday, because he was like, "Oh, that's BS. That's not true." I'm like, "Yeah, it is though.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how the playoffs are picked. It's the teams with the 7 best records in each conference."
You know, Spencer, it's one thing to say it after week 4 or 5. You know, they were kind of lucky. They're 4-1. They're kind of when you get to past the midway point of the season and you're 8-1. You're not lucky anymore. You deserve to win the game. Minnesota was losing at Buffalo by 17 points and came back and won the football game. You come back at a place like that against a team like that, you're not lucky. That's not lucky you won that game. They deserve to win. I mean, so the Saints are
100%.
Good teams find ways to win, I guess is my point. And bad teams.
Yeah, and in the
go ahead.
I'll tell you about the coaching. You know, Josh McDaniels, an example of a poor head coach. Kevin O'Connell, example of a really good head coach. Because look at the quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. Very similar quarterbacks. I still believe that, even though
I agree.
Cousins is having more success, I don't think Carr is as bad as people are making him out to be. I still think him and Cousins are about the same.
I think they're exactly the same.
Right, yeah, the leadership and the coaching, though. I mean, Cousins might be a slightly better leader, but Kevin O'Connell, I mean, that dude knows what he's doing. That's the reason Minnesota's so turned around.
Well, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about NFL results in a little bit. I do want to move on, and we'll talk about. Look, I think at this point you're starting to look ahead already, and if the Saints have any, I'm not even getting into the Dalton Winston debate. There's no debate at this point. If you're still on the Andy Dalton train, look, and I said this is another thing I said this morning for those who missed it. Here's the thing that bothered me, and this is the only thing I'm going to say. What bothers me more than anything is the people who are clamoring for Andy Dalton. It's got to be Andy Dalton. They got their wish. And see, I told you, blah, blah, blah. And now that he stinks to high heaven, now that the red water pistol is just turned into
out of water.
I mean, he shows that he needs to retire. Okay. Now they're saying it doesn't matter. So don't tell me it doesn't matter now. If you were all over Andy Dalton before and you're saying it doesn't matter, you're just a hater.
I feel like with Jameis Winston, at least Jameis Winston would have tried. Like, even when he was down bad against Carolina, had the broken back, he was still trying.
Exactly.
Andy Dalton is a 30-something-year-old who's just accepted that he's a backup and is just he doesn't seem to care. Like, he just doesn't seem to really have that competitive fire.
No, but he's never really had that competitive fire. That's who he is. I mean, sometimes it's a good thing.
Look at his primetime results. I mean, that's usually when like people that really have the chip on their shoulder shine the brightest, and then that's when he does the worst.
Well, I'm guessing, I think there's a good chance that Dennis Allen makes the change this week. You could kind of hear it in what he was saying yesterday, and he didn't want to say it. But here's the thing. Why didn't you make it before this week? Andy Dalton was 3-13, now 3-14 in his career against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's kind of like a starting pitcher. You know, if he's pitching that, if you got a 3-day, let's say Team A is playing Team B, and he's 3-13 against Team A, or 3-13 against Team B, and he's scheduled to pitch the last day of a 3-game set, you just push him back a day and let him pitch against Team C. I mean, why wouldn't you let Jameis Winston try to go against the Steelers? I didn't understand that at all. Speaking of Jameis Winston and possibly playing, guess what? The good news is, if you're looking for just the Saints victory and you're trying to stay on the train as long as you can stay on it, this is about as good a situation for the Saints as they could possibly get. They're hosting the Los Angeles Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions, who are probably actually in a worse situation than the Saints are. Because not only is Matthew Stafford their quarterback in concussion protocol, and I'm guessing at this point at 3-7, I think it's 50-50 at best if he plays this week. But I think it's 98% chance that Cooper Kupp doesn't play. They have other receiver issues. They can't do anything on offense. And so the beleaguered Saints defense might get a reprieve this week. The Saints are actually 3-point favorites at 3-7 against the defending Super Bowl champions.
Unbelievable, huh? But that just goes to show how down bad the Rams are at the Stafford and then Cooper Kupp probably out. They're not sure the severity, but it could be a high ankle sprain. So he'll probably miss multiple weeks. Thanks for us fantasy managers. But yeah, as far as Uncle Big Nick just commented, out multiple weeks. So yeah, I mean, this is a perfect get right spot. But the problem is, it's like, even if you win, it's just the season's over. So it's just
There's no get right spot.
Yeah, so I mean, but again, like I said earlier, you don't have a first rounder, so you might as well try to win. But I don't feel. I think that I can't pick the Saints right now, and unless they name Winston the starter, I'll pick them. But if they don't name a starter and wait till the end, I guess if they end up naming him the starter, I'll pick him. But if it's Dalton, I think the Saints get blown out,
If they
even
don't,
against the crappy Rams.
if they don't pick him now, it's out of sheer stubbornness. And again, I said a month ago, it's the kind of when he said that Andy Dalton's our starter going forward, regardless of Jameis Winston's injury. And Mike Triplett had a great thing on New Orleans Football is the name of the podcast that he works for now. Great story on Jameis basically coming forward and saying, I was promised this job back when they weren't going to take the job from me due to injury, and they lied to him. So if you don't make this move now, then you're just being stubborn and you get what you deserve. I mean, and I'm serious. If you should go, I hope they go 3-14. If they don't make this change now, they should go 3-14 and clean house and start over.
They'll have to clean house at that point. Maybe then they could. I mean, I know people won't want to hear this, but I mean, he probably gets suspended next year. Try to trade Kamara for it and get a first back. I mean, if you're that down bad, you might as well try something.
If there's any tradable commodity on this team, there aren't many. There's a couple, but Kamara might be the only one. And I don't disagree with you, honestly, because Saints fans don't want to hear it. But I don't care what happens. I don't care who you bring in. I don't care what you do next year as a rebuilding team, because they're in cap hell. They're in absolute cap hell. Mike Thomas is going to find something else to be injured about next year.
I saw his cryptic tweet.
You're stuck with his salary. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Marshawn Lattimore finds a way to be hurt next year. Look, those two guys
trade
alone.
him too. Lattimore is probably still tradable.
You can't
Thomas is.
I don't think you can trade Lattimore because his cap hit is $40 million next year.
Oof.
So he's almost untradeable. So Thomas and Lattimore alone combined are over $60 million of cap hit. I mean, you're in rebuilding mode, and you're not going to get a quarterback with no money. I do want to move on. We can come back and touch on this in a minute. But look, let's talk about more positive news. Something that we obviously can sink our teeth in. We talked about LSU and a potential of a trap game, and it was. LSU won 13-10. I'm not sure why Zach put covers +6. They were never +6. It never got that high.
Wasn't it 3.5?
It was 3.5. Yeah. So I don't know if he was using an old slot or what he did there, but and it was the under 59 that came in very late. So maybe the line very last second went to +6, but I was doing it all morning. I don't remember it being that high. I think it was 4.5.
Oh wait, yeah, it did move. It went to like 5 because of the quarterback for Arkansas.
Right. When Jefferson announced it didn't play.
Yeah.
But anyway, the good news is, look, Brian Kelly said we came out without our A game and found a way to win on the road. And that's the gist you take out of it. LSU, this is times in the past when LSU would have lost a game like this after winning the big game in Alabama. And you knew they were going to come out flat. So it's not a surprise. But the fact that they found a way to win, they had several chances to lose that game. And Harold Perkins is just an absolute beast.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I got to watch it. We were chilling at the spot, where we're at on my little trip. And, we were watching it. And, Perkins, man, every time he was swarming to the ball, just just making it hell on the QB. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe it. That was one of the best performances I've ever seen. Like, I think that the way he's looking, like he's going to be a top 5 draft pick. I mean, Harold Perkins is
got a ways to get, and he's only a true freshman, so he can't go anywhere for 2 more years.
He's kind of like probably the closest thing to Will Anderson, as far as being just a dominant force that can take over the game. And
Yeah,
And man, if that's right, Zoe, that's even more
yeah.
impressive.
Zoe's talking about how, and we had a story on this that Leah Van reported that he had the flu and puked before the game and said he's good to go. He's good to go. Well,
Like Michael Jordan, the flu game, he does better with the flu.
kind of yeah. Oh, and then I don't know if you saw the meme about that Brian Kelly called. He said, "Boy," he said, "No, I want to go out there and play." He said, "You're like MJ," and he said, "Who?" So that's how we know we're getting old, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, MJ. That's crazy to think. Oh yeah, MJ was he was it was I would always hear the stories about him, but when I was little, it was Kobe and LeBron. MJ was out of the league at that point.
I watch basketball just to watch Michael Jordan play. I mean, it is what it is. I saw him playing. And how old am I? I was in the stands when he played in the 1982 NCAA championship game in the Dome, and MJ was playing for North Carolina. That's how old I am. So anyway,
Nice.
so I thought I'd throw that in there. All right, let's look ahead and UAB and LSU, and this, another trap game. You don't often get trap games back to back, but it kind of is because UAB is a lot better than a lot of people know. The Blazers have played very well this season. LSU is only a 14.5-point favorite. I wouldn't touch this game with a stick, as we like to say here. And I mean, you can ask me later in the week who I like, but I don't know. I have to look at it a little bit more. But LSU in a spot now where they really just need to win. I guess if you want to say they need style points to have a chance to get in the playoff, maybe. But this is a team that, I don't know. You probably don't remember this, Spencer, because you were just a little kid when this happened. But Nick Saban and the LSU, in fact, you might not have been born. I think you were born. You were a little kid.
Oh, yeah, I remember Saban with LSU.
Nick Saban and LSU lost to UAB at home in one of the worst LSU home games in recent memory. So UAB has been known to pull an upset. Why they're even playing UAB, I have no earthly idea. Should be playing Tulane right there. If you're going to play UAB, play Tulane. So an interesting spot for the Tigers this week. Can they keep it rolling?
Yeah, I think they do. I haven't done a whole lot of research on UAB, so maybe my opinion will change by Thursday. But as of now, I like them. Oh, Jerry made it. What's up, Jerry?
Jerry's back. He's got no words.
I don't either. Well, we got we got a lot of our bashing out of the way, but yeah, as far as UAB, I mean, I know they've had a good history recently. I think they had a few years ago, like 10 years ago, like dropped football.
Yeah.
And now they're like back to being one of the better Conference USA teams. But I think LSU is going to bounce back after Saturday. Saturday was kind of a dud that they came out with a win. So I think they're going to be, feeling good after that. And I think they'll win this by 20 plus.
We'll see. I think that as long as their defense keeps playing like they've been playing, and we saw what the defense did. What is it? New Mexico State. I keep getting them mixed up. But whoever, the New Mexico team that they played, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they only allowed 2 first downs. I think that might be the defense that we see going forward. All right. We're going to let Jerry say this because I know we're in the middle of LSU. Dennis Allen needs to go. We're going to, we're going to close the show with our thoughts on that, Jerry. So stick around. But I do want to finish up on some other things going on. Lastly, I'll show this. It is official. LSU will face Georgia in the SEC championship game, no matter what happens the rest of the way. Georgia's opened up as a 16-point favorite against the Tigers. God, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that's enough points. I mean,
yeah.
Georgia's got that look, man. I told you a couple of weeks ago that Georgia.
After the Tennessee thing, which I'll tip my hat to you about that, Jim. After that showed me because I watched that game from start to finish. Georgia, that they're probably gonna repeat. So I mean,
I think they are.
16. It is a lot of points. Maybe LSU covers. I don't know. I'm not gonna make my pick yet. The game's like 3 weeks from now, but. I don't know. It's just Georgia's. They're not. I just don't see LSU being able to go into Atlanta and take them down. But
I don't like taking one team and allowing and going against the field. Basically, I don't do that very often. I kind of did it last year. I took Georgia, and I waited a little too long this time. But I did get Georgia to even money last week. I just don't see how they're gonna
Oh, I
lose.
got you. Yeah, I mean, Ohio State. CJ Stroud. He's kind of rounding
Yeah.
in. He got off at a little bit of a slow start, but he's really rounding in the form where he should,
He was great
keep
against
this going.
Indiana.
Yeah, I know they haven't really played anybody, but he's gonna win the Heisman. He's gonna have all the momentum because I think they're gonna roll Michigan. I'm sure we'll get to that one.
I
But
agree.
is that this week or no? That's the last
No,
week.
that's 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they're gonna roll and they're gonna just have a pretty easy road to where Georgia's got to deal with all the SEC. I mean, with SEC is a hell of a lot tougher than the Big Ten, but I think CJ Stroud against that Georgia defense, if it ends up that, will be really fun.
Yeah, I will say this. I think that Ohio State is the only team in the country that can beat Georgia. I'm not saying they will beat Georgia because I don't think they will, but I think they're the only team that can beat Georgia. So that'll be interesting to see. If Michigan somehow beats Ohio State, then Georgia, you can crown them. Nobody's beating Georgia because it ain't going to be Michigan. They cannot beat Georgia. So that would be the biggest Christmas present that the Bulldogs
Michigan
could
had
ever
their
get.
moment last year. Last year was Michigan's chance, and they blew it.
You never know. You never know. But if you can get Georgia anywhere around -110, -120, I think it's worth a bet. I'm surprised Zach didn't put that slot in here. Really quickly looking ahead to this coming week, Tulane took it on the chin. 61 straight losses against a ranked opponent. That is hard to believe. They haven't defeated a ranked opponent since I was in high school. I mean, just figure out how long ago that was. We're not going to say the years. But I was a senior in high school. That's the last time they beat a ranked opponent. 61 straight losses. They get another chance to change things around. They play Thursday night at home against SMU in their home finale, as a matter of fact. Last college game, anyway, at Yulman Stadium this season. Anything on this list that kind of sticks out? I think this could be a USC trip-up game. UCLA losing to Arizona this week. I think that's the worst thing that could happen for USC. UCLA probably was looking ahead. They're going to be fired up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they could. I like USC, though. I'm a big Caleb Williams truther. I mean, that dude he's fun to watch, but could be a little tricky. It's like Oregon, Utah. I think Utah, that's still a pretty good team. That could be tricky for Oregon because it's this Bo Nix, really. He was so bad with Auburn. I know he's done a lot better with his new team, but it's just the Pac-12. He's had a lot of easy games where Utah's not going to be easy. So I'd probably be a little more worried about them than USC.
Yeah, and I think that Oregon bounces back too, though. Another team that was a 13-point favorite and lost straight up this past week to Washington. So that was one of Zach's picks, by the way. Oregon -13.5. I don't think so. But we're not going to beleaguer. We're not going to beleaguer his picks because he didn't. I noticed he didn't give us a big bucks list. It's killing him that I'm still winning. I mean, I had my first losing week of the season record wise, but I still won money. I said my two.
Man, we all were down bad.
My two highest picks, my two $30 picks both came through for me. So
yeah, my best bet finally ran out because of the stupid Raiders. I knew I shouldn't have messed with that. I underestimated. I'll admit it. I underestimated Jeff Saturday. I thought that was just a joke of a hire. I mean, he was a freaking TV analyst, had no coaching experience, but he just seems like he must be a damn good leader.
I will say this.
And he made the quarterback switch that made way more sense than what they were doing before he got there.
I know you're fairly new into this. A little tip. You don't necessarily have to bet on them, but never bet against a coach that comes in during the season. Don't ever bet against a coach that comes in during the season.
Oh yeah, because normally
correct.
Yeah, normally I follow that rule, but I just thought Saturday. He's going to be so unprepared. But
I'm not saying you have to bet. You should, I'm not telling you to not bet on the Colts or bet against them. You could pick, whatever. Don't ever make that a best bet. It's like betting with Mabel this week. I did it. Look, I'm on my own rules. One of my best bets was Dallas -4.5, knowing that I was going to the Mabel. And I still did it. I do it about once or twice a year. Yeah. I have those brain farts, and I go against my own rules, and it bit me on the butt.
To bounce back this way.
Yeah. All right. Before we go back to the NFL, because we are going to go back to the NFL, just want to talk about the Pelicans very briefly. Middle of a homestand, they get the Grizz coming in here tomorrow night. The Pels are just not playing very well right now. I know that they found a way to beat the Rockets up 18, then down 8 in the fourth quarter, found a way. Jose Alvarado gets kicked out of a game. I hope maybe that fires them up a little bit because they're not playing well, and they've got a tough schedule on the horizon. Bulls, Celtics, and the Dubs coming in here. I mean, that is not an easy schedule. And then you go to San Antonio, you go to Memphis Thanksgiving week. Pels better start figuring things out because they're just not playing that great right now.
Yep, and I'm just gonna say it. Zion's got to step up in a leadership role. I mean, yeah, he's fun. He does all his flexing and this and that, but he's got to be a leader. You know, he's got to. I mean, because he's the big scorer. I mean, I know CJ's the veteran, but Zion to me has got to shoulder more of that leadership role if this team's gonna go far in the playoffs.
Agreed. And look, we're gonna wrap up the show in about 5-10 minutes with our final comments on, because we never really talked about Dennis Allen. I do want to talk about that. If you want to comment on it, now's your time. You can comment wherever you're watching. Feel free to type it in the comment slot. We'll show it when we get to that segment. Want to go back to the NFL again, not just about the Saints, but some interesting results yesterday around the NFL. Maybe the most surprising one is, I'm not surprised that I picked the Vikings to cover. I thought they would play well. People keep dissing this team. They keep giving this team way too much. They keep giving their opponents way too much stock, I guess is the way to put it. The Vikings are one of the best value bets, and we're going to get to the look-aheads in a minute. The Vikings are one of the best value bets in the NFL week to week, them and the Giants. They keep the Giants only being a 5-point favorite.
I should have made the Giants my best bet. I like
that was
the
Giants. My best bet.
Yeah, that should have been mine. Yep.
So that's
like free money right there.
That's what you look for at this point. You look for the teams that keep getting dissed and the ones that keep getting overvalued. And to me, the Giants and the Vikings are some of the most undervalued teams when it comes to lines. And so I don't understand these lines at all. There's nothing else really. I guess you could say Colts Raiders is a surprise, but look, when you talk about a team that stinks like the Raiders, and there's obviously dysfunction there, Josh McDaniels better figure a way very similar to Dennis Allen. Better figure out a way to get that locker room together quick, or he's going to be in big trouble. But what sticks out to you? Game of the year had to be Vikings Bills, but what else sticks out to you?
Right. Yeah, we had talked about that one. I guess that Bucks Seahawks kind of sticks out as far as I think TB12's back, y'all. I mean, he's back.
No,
I mean, he's back. I mean,
come on, man.
He's
back from what?
They're gonna win the division, and I think they could be dangerous in the playoffs because
they're gonna win a division that like 24 other teams in the NFL could win.
I mean, it's just. I know you like to hate on him, Jim, and I mean,
I'm
not
hating on him. He's old. He needs to go.
But look, you see, UBN gets a single TB12. He's got the divorce behind him. Single TB12, 2-0. That's all I'm gonna say.
That has nothing to do with anything. Exactly. Absolutely nothing to do with anything.
But he's looked. I mean, he looked. The Seahawks.
You think it's a good thing to get divorced from Giselle? I just want to ask that question. Do you think it's a good thing that he got divorced? I mean, if you
he loves football more. He picked football.
Spencer, I think he has a problem. He picked football over Giselle. He picked stats. He picked running up his stats over Giselle. Dude's got serious mental issues. I'm just saying. I mean, I mean, look.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I do say about with on the field. Yeah, he might be 45, but he's still better.
He is.
Than a lot of these quarterbacks out there.
He's better than Andy Dalton.
Up every week. Yes, exactly. Yeah, these ones like him and Derek Carr and these ones that just, I mean, like, yeah, he's still
definitely better than Andy Dalton.
Better Baker Mayfield, better than Marcus Mariota. And I know everyone loves Geno Smith.
Oh, come on. He's definitely better than Geno Smith. I'm not like, come on, man. Of course.
Yeah, well,
he's unquestionably the best quarterback in the NFC South. Zero doubt. Right now at 4. In fact, he could go take a holiday and then come back in time, but still be 55 and be better than any of these dogs that are in the NFC South.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not.
he come out with
That
a
doesn't take
cane,
much.
still beat Andy Dalton. Yeah, yeah, better than Jimmy G. Yeah,
Oh,
better. I
come on, man.
mean, better than Kyler Murray. I mean, the Cardinals seem like were better without Kyler Murray this
The
week.
Cardinals won without Kyler Murray. That's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
Colt McCoy is one of the better backups. But
Yeah, well, maybe the
that
Saints
ain't
trade for
saying
him.
much.
They'll
But
probably make him the starter next year. And please don't take this out. And I hope if we have to come back and hear me being Nostradamus and play this back, and Colt McCoy really is the starter for the Saints next year, I'm gonna have a hard time doing Datitude for 4 months. I'm not kidding.
bring
All right,
Teddy back. Be Teddy again.
Teddy. Yeah, bring Teddy Two Gloves back. All right, tonight. The Eagles, for the third straight week, are double-digit favorites. It has never happened in their history. They have never been double-digit favorites 3 weeks in a row since they started doing lines a long, long, long time ago. And tonight they are 11-point favorites against the Commanders. And they could be 10-point favorites again next week. Right now, we're going to look at look-ahead lines in just a moment. But this morning, they were 9.5-point favorites. So it would be interesting if it happens 4 weeks in a row. If they win, they probably will be. All right, Eagles, Commanders. -11. I think this is one of your best bets, so I know how you feel, but we'll let you chat about it here.
Right, yeah, I really like the Commanders in this one, +11, because they've been a different football team under Taylor Heinicke. I mean, under Carson Wentz, we talked about leadership earlier, no leadership whatsoever. Now that Taylor Heinicke's in there, they're playing a lot better. Oh, even the defense has played better with him. They just say he's the guy that, has a chip on his shoulder, came up from, what was he, in the AAF or one of those like minor league things, like a guy that had him completely
So is
written
PJ
off.
Walker.
Right, and I mean Heineke's definitely better than him. So I mean Heineke's a legit starting QB. I don't know if I'm gonna say he's above average, but he's at least like an average type quarterback with above average leadership skills and weapons. Jahan Dotson will be back tonight. They've got Scary Terry. He's gotten Scary Terry more involved. Curtis Samuel solid. Brian Robinson's decent runner. Antonio Gibson. And they've got weapons playing better on defense to me. They should at least cover. Jalen Hurts is on a mission though, so I don't think they'll win. I mean, he's trying to go undefeated, so I don't think it'll. I think they'll lose at some point, but not tonight. But I don't think they'll win by 11 plus.
I wouldn't surprise me at all if Washington won this football game. I am not as high on Taylor Heinicke as you are. I do think he's probably the right choice over Carson Wentz. But Washington's defense has played phenomenally the last few weeks. We always thought they were going to be good. Does Chase Young mean that much? I guess so. Maybe T.J. Watt means that much to the Steelers. Chase Young certainly means
those are difference makers. I mean, Chase Young is a beast. I mean, he was the second
really
overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, and he's playing like it. And so I think the Commanders cover here. I think, look, whenever you're talking about double digits in a division game, 8 times out of 10, I'm going to take the dog in that fight, even if it's on the road. And I think the Commanders, remember, look, they lost 24-8 the first time they played them early in the season. I think it was week 2 or 3.
Yeah, week 3. Yeah.
Okay, so and that was at Washington, but that was with, not only was it with Carson Wentz, but they would never really. It was 24-0 from. I think the Commanders scored a garbage touchdown late.
They didn't even show up.
Yeah, and so you talk about Washington getting their weapons back, and Brian Robinson, to me, I love this kid. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a starter for a while. So we'll see if he can get things going. But I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Let's see what we got here. The under is 43. That's about right. But I probably lean towards the under there. But I'm definitely going to play Commanders a little bit tonight. So I'm with you on your best bet. I hope you win it because I will be playing it for sure. And,
we got it on big bucks too. Hopefully, I can at least be 2 and 3. I don't want to get into Zach territory. Sorry,
I know I was talking smack a couple of weeks ago and said your bankroll was going down, but I'm not gonna. I don't want you to go. I want us all to look good, so I want you to win.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. Let's see what we got to look ahead to next week as we get towards wrapping up the show. Again, if you want to leave your comment about the Saints and Dennis Allen and your thoughts, I think now would be the time because we have 5 minutes left in the show. All right. Titans, Packers. That's a really interesting one on Thursday night. Another team that keeps just getting forgot. The Titans, they stink. They're 6-3. Stop hating on the Titans. I know you're still probably hating on the Titans. I told you 6 weeks ago the Titans were going to win this division, but no, it was going to be Jacksonville, you and Zach jumping all over me.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Yeah, they're the best team there. The thing that I like the Packers in this one though, because I think the Packers are starting to get their swagger back, and I
They
think
had
this.
one starting to get their swagger back. They played one good game. Actually, they played one good quarter.
But this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking
Oh,
about
here we
here, future
go.
Hall of
Aaron
Famer.
Rodgers.
And who are you gonna? I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill. I'm still taking Aaron Rodgers, even if he's on the ayahuasca. So I'm gonna, I'm going with Green Bay in this one. Tennessee, they're just, I mean, they're pretty good. I'll say that they're pretty good. They're a playoff team, but they're not a Super Bowl contender. Green Bay, if they could right the ship, could potentially get back to being a Super Bowl contender. Tennessee
Oh,
just
come on.
they have no upside.
Are you
I mean,
saying
if
Green Bay could be a Super Bowl? Are you crazy?
Derrick Henry, and that's it. I mean, it's like I just if Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur could get on the same page more consistently, then yes. I mean, as of now, it's not looking like they will because even yesterday they were jawing at each other. But
Yeah.
if they could, though, it could
it's
be dangerous.
You know what's crazy is I think Aaron Rodgers misses Mike McCarthy because he ran the show when Mike McCarthy was here. You saw the big bear hug they had for each other yesterday.
Yeah, they clashed a little bit, but they actually
Don't
I think they might low key miss each other.
Don't buy into what you saw yesterday. I'm telling you right. Don't get caught in that trap. Don't go eating fruitcakes with Aunt Mabel, Spencer.
I'm not saying it's gonna be my best bet. I'm just saying
don't go eating lemon cookies with Zoe. I mean,
well,
don't do it.
Tennessee, the Tennessee thing in Georgia, that's the one that still left a bad. Those fruitcakes left a bad taste in my mouth.
They usually will, my friend.
And then UBN, I wanted to point out his comment real quick because I got Devontae Smith over on yards is the other play for daily best bets. Didn't realize it was his birthday, so that's even more reason to go play that.
God, I hope y'all are wrong. He's just saying that because I'm playing against him tonight, and he's got Devontae Smith, and I have Jalen Hurts. So I know that's all the reason why he's saying that. All right, other games on here that I think are interesting. Another one. We talk about it. They keep dissing on the Vikings. What is wrong with these people? The Vikings at home are a 1-point underdog, and actually it was 2.
Yeah, underdog.
It was 2 this morning.
Oh
it was
God.
a 2-point game this morning. So I don't know if Zach, if something changed quickly, or if the Sharps bought up or finally buying on Minnesota. That is an absurd line. And I don't know what I'm going to pick. I may pick the Cowboys when all is said and done. I got to look at the analysis, and I know this is a letdown spot, but Minnesota keeps winning. They keep winning, and they keep getting. That is a ridiculous line. No matter who I pick, because again, I may pick the Cowboys once I do my analysis, but that is an absurd line. It makes no sense. And then the Chargers are for the second. I bet you this has never happened. I bet a team has never been a 7-point underdog on Sunday night 2 weeks in a row, because that's what the Chargers are. They're playing the Chiefs, and I think the Chiefs are starting to figure things out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And Justin Herbert just doesn't look exactly right. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with not having Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. But he just, I don't know, ever since he had where he got knocked in the ribs in week 2 against the Chiefs, he just hasn't looked the same.
I agree.
He has not looked like the Justin Herbert we knew from those first 2 years where he was like unstoppable, the fantasy darling. Like now he's still okay, but he's just, I don't know, he's just not like putting up the numbers. He's just throw a dink and dunk everything, just everything's short. Like their O-line's banged up. And so it's not all his fault, but at a certain point, it's like you've just got, like Drew Brees would always do. Even when Drew Brees was down bad and had injured receivers and O-linemen, he found the way. So this is going to be this is the big test to see if Justin Herbert's truly an elite QB.
That leads into my point about Dennis Allen as we go to close this show. Good teams don't make excuses, and good coaches don't make excuses. And I've heard at least 5 or 6 occasions this year, and I played the clip on the show. We've just got to get better. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. And start talking about the refs. He made another comment, and it was a little bit less forward. He wasn't as blunt this time, but he made another comment about the refs. He pointed out the fact that they had 10 penalties to Pittsburgh's 4. You're not doing that because you're saying that your team shouldn't commit that many penalties. He was doing that to point out that he thinks that his team got screwed. And you lost 20-10. The refs should never even come. If somebody asks you about the refs, you know what Sean Payton would do in a situation like that? I'm not talking about that. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then, Sean Payton would say something very real, never more than once or twice in a season. Dennis Allen's now done it like 4 or 5 times. Stop playing. That DPI at the end of the game was a terrible call. There's no question. It was 20-10. There's no question. It was a terrible call, and it allowed the Steelers' drive to go on. Actually, I think that was leading to their touchdown. So I'm sorry, it was 13-10. It was 13-10 and allowed them to score that last touchdown. But the game didn't change. The Saints weren't winning that game whether they scored a touchdown there or not. They could have gone for a field goal, missed the field goal. It stayed 13-10. The Saints still weren't winning. Not with the water pistol. They have no life. There's no life on this team. So to me, that leads to big trouble. And if they don't win more than 3 games down the stretch, I don't see how Dennis Allen keeps a job, even though Mickey Loomis, as I said again, on Datitude, Mickey Loomis is loyal to the core, loyal to a fault. I don't see that he's going to make a change unless Dennis Allen wins fewer than 6 games.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm thinking that I've kind of caught my head. Like, I'm thinking that they'll probably win. I would think they'll win this week. Go back to Jameis. Go back to Jameis.
We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it.
I think they'll win, like 3, probably 3, win about 6, because, 6-11. I think they'll do enough to save his job, but I tell you what, it could. Yeah, I mean, but I will say this. I'm saying this about that contingent on he makes the switch. But if he doesn't make the switch, if he sticks with Andy Dalton, they might not win another game the rest of the year. And then in that case, then yeah, they'll have no choice but to fire him. But I would think because from his comments in the presser, like, he did not commit to Dalton one bit. So that tells me he's going to make the switch.
Yeah, and look, even if the Saints win this week, which obviously they're favored, they have a good chance to win this week. Again, a team that is dysfunctional and could be missing their quarterback again. They're really in trouble without their quarterback because they have no running game, and they're even in more trouble without Cooper Kupp. So I don't know how they're going to move the ball.
Smash the under in that one.
Yeah, well, it's 39, so I don't know that I would want to do that, but we'll see as we go along in the week. So, but that being said, even if the Saints were to win this week, then they go on the road to San Francisco, go on the road and play Tom Brady on a Monday night before their bye week. Ugly. So if they get crushed by Frisco and Tampa Bay, which is, I think it's more than just a possibility. I think it's a solid chance that happens. So then they would be 4-9. And going into your bye week with zero confidence and not caring, they might not win again. So enjoy this week, boys and girls. And Zach was giving me grief earlier saying Monday overreaction. And I'm Monday overreaction. What about the last month? I'm not just talking about what I saw yesterday. I'm talking about what I've seen for the last month. I mean, other than the Raiders game, they've played like bums.
Yeah, and the Raiders game was because Dennis Allen was fired up to beat his old team.
Exactly. And not only that, the Raiders are just as dysfunctional as the Saints.
Yeah, and true.
And they
might be even more dysfunctional.
Yeah. They had the flu bug in their locker room. Zoe doesn't know I'm about to bring her on. So here's your 2-second preparation. We're going to have final thoughts here. And so I'm going to ask each of you your final thought. It could be about the Saints. It could be about LSU. It could be about anything you want. It could be about Justin Fields. Anything you want to talk about. And you got 1 minute each to do it here as we close out the show. I'm going to start with you, Spencer.
All right, yeah, I'll go with Justin Fields. Shout out to Justin Fields. He's been racking up
Zoe's thunder.
Fantasy points.
I'm sorry, Zoe. I never saw that coming.
I had to do it. I had to do it because he's been just doing so well. Because, I mean, I'm a fantasy guy. I mean, they call me the guru because of fantasy football. So, like, I mean, I just had to shout him out because 2 weeks in a row now, #1 scoring quarterback, outscored Allen, outscored Mahomes, getting me back in contention in 2 leagues that I was down bad in. So, hope he keeps it up, Zoe, because, man, it's fun to watch.
Zoe, I can't believe you did that. I really, I can't believe
sorry, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
Listen, I was going to talk about my forever quarterback, too. Like, he is the best quarterback the Bears have seen since, let's call it the 1950s.
Oh, come on.
Sid Luckman.
Thank you, Spencer. You can see Justin Fields' growth. He has more rushing touchdowns than a couple of the other teams in the NFL, like the Colts. and I want to say the Bucks, to name a few. And he has a lot of room to grow. The only reason why the Bears suck right now is because we're still dealing with previous management. So,
and they traded away their 2 best defensive players,
but
and one of the best defensive players in the league, in Roquan Smith.
Yeah, and he's blossoming in Baltimore, so good for him. But that gives the Bears a lot of cap space. So I think the Bears are going to have a very interesting offseason, and let's see what happens in the next year or two, because Justin Fields is coming. He is going to be great.
I appreciate your optimism, but
it's all I have as a Bears fan.
About 4 weeks ago, and I hope you don't get offended. I hope we can still be friends when I say this. But 4 weeks ago, Justin Fields was a dog. I mean, no one was talking anything good about him except he knows how to run the football. Now, all of a sudden, because he's had a few good weeks, this is the Justin Fields we thought we were getting. He's great. Dan Orlovsky actually, Uncle Big Nick told me this morning, Dan Orlovsky said it should be an MVP candidate. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? I had to watch what I said there right there.
I think Justin Fields is showing great glimpses, but he's got to get that consistent. He needs to be more consistent to be an MVP candidate. And there have been so many moments we've seen like, yes, that's the Justin Fields we want over the past 2 seasons, but he needs to be protected better, and the defense needs to be protected better, because I'll tell you one thing, I will lose my head if we lose to the Lions one more time.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Everyone doubted Lamar Jackson, MVP.
I still do.
Everyone doubted Jalen Hurts, MVP candidate. Y'all got to stop doubting the mobile QBs, man. That's the way of the future. It's not about the mobile
QB. It's not the wave of the future. They've been doing this for like 6-7 years. They don't win Super Bowls.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
When?
Probably this year. I mean, Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. One of them probably going to.
When I'm in the nursing home and you're 50 years old, please bring your phone or whatever devices we're using then, and somebody wins, some mobile quarterback finally wins the Super Bowl. I invite you over.
Multiple.
Invite you over to the nursing home, and you can show me the clips. I mean, I'll be drooling chicken soup down my cheek or something. I don't know, but
I'll take you up on that. I told you, old man. Or you can be like, I told you, dude.
Probably
you young kids think I got it all figured out. But we'll make it happen though. We'll make it long-term futures bet.
I can't promise that I'm going to remember this then. But
that's why I'm
here. She's the gatekeeper. She'll remember. Right. Well, if long forgotten about it, remember that futures bet y'all made 20 years ago on Bayou Bets?
Oh, yeah, y'all already gonna owe me for Jacksonville not winning the division. That's like stealing. That's a whole nother story.
Don't have to do a double or nothing on that, because I bet that.
Your money, Spencer.
My closing thought of the day is Duncan writes a column this morning about, can it get any worse? And that's kind of the title up here. Yeah. And he says it could get worse before it gets better. I think if it doesn't get any better, here's why it matters going forward. I hate the people that talk about just lose so you can get a better draft pick. Well, the Saints, Merry Christmas, Philadelphia. The Saints don't have a first-round draft pick this year. And who cares if you draft 34th or 35th? You had the 3rd or 4th pick in the second round. Who cares? And I'm never for that anyway. I'm always about winning. Do whatever you can, because winning at the end of the season, believe it or not, gives you momentum going to the next season. I know that the Lions, speaking of the Lions, they haven't really shown it with their record. They're 3-6, but I think that the Lions winning towards the end of last season, after that just horrendous start, tying the Steelers and then ended up winning a couple games, I think that gave them momentum going into the season. And I think that winning cures a lot of ills. And for the Saints team, I think it's super important, because you don't want to go into complete rebuild mode. And I think that's kind of where the Saints are. I think if they stink to high heaven, I think if they finish 4-13, they're going to have to go into complete rebuild mode. And it's going to be a long, bumpy ride with no money. So hopefully they can cure those ills, and we can talk about something, be a little bit more positive, because I don't want to be Derry Downer. But I'm kind of sick of this. So I let my frustrations out this morning. It's a little bit more tame here on Bayou Bets. We'll see what happens on Thursday when Zach comes back. Y'all, it's been fun, sort of, kind of, iffy. We'll see. Commanders and Eagles tonight. Spencer and I are both on the Eagles. I mean, Commanders, sorry, plus 11. Plus 11. Zoe, who you got tonight? Philly minus 11.
I'm taking Philly.
Okay.
I don't think it's their time to lose yet.
Okay, well, we're not saying they're going to lose.
I don't either. I just think it'll be a fairly close game.
No, I know, but you know.
don't think it's going to be a fair. You think it's not going to be a fair fight?
I don't think so.
I hope Jalen Hurts.
Taylor Heineke, man.
I need Jalen Hurts to run in 2 touchdowns tonight. Can he do that? That would be nice. All right. Well, hopefully the gang will all be back together on Thursday for Bayou Bets and our pre-holiday week. And we hope you have a wonderful week. And we thank you for spending an hour or so with us here on a Thursday. I'm jumping ahead. On a Monday afternoon. For Zoe, for Spencer, I'm Jim. We will see you later. Have a great week, everybody.